Hello, and welcome back to KDrama Rants. My name is Melanie, and I like to rant about K-dramas. Today, we're talking part 6, the final part of Mr. Sunshine. Last week, things really started to reach a boiling point with the Japan-Korea conflict. Ishin disappears for half a year and comes back only to ask Eugene for help. Ishin's grandpa has passed. Dongmae was shot, but he's better now. Wanek is finally gone. Gotta say, I'm gonna miss this show. It is top tier. We're back in Eugene's hotel room where Eshin has broken in to ask Eugene to take her to the US. He knows she's not doing this out of a love for him. He tells her that she should have lied and professed her love for him. She can't do that to you, baby boy. He asks her where she really wants to go. He knows for damn sure that she's not going to New York City. She wants to go to Japan. That's where Dongmun is being held. Takashi is leaving the hotel. He's going back to Japan for a promotion, but the bellboy at the hotel, who could not have worse timing, tells Hina within Takashi's earshot that he saw something black on the balcony of the hotel. This, of course, perks up Takashi's ears, and he commands all the troops at his disposal to search every room for the traitor. Once the men disperse, Hina pulls on the room bells to signal that danger is coming. Ishin dips by traveling from one balcony to the next. She finds Hee-sung freshly showered in a bathrobe. She averts her eyes quickly. He's obviously sad that she's only there to hide, but he's happy to help. Takashi enters Eugene's room. She's clearly not there, so he covers up the intrusion by saying that he just wanted to say goodbye to someone who might not be there when he comes back from Japan. He sees a box peeking out from under Eugene's bed. He opens it up and finds the Chosun flag Eugene was given when he accepted the military academy post. When the Japanese knock on Hee-sung's door, Ishin has covered herself in a kimono to start to distract the men who don't see her face. It works somehow. Once they're gone, Hee-sung pulls out the suit that he'd made for her in a new style and fabric. When he hands it to her, she looks like she realizes how good life could be with him. Too bad she doesn't love him. Maybe I'm projecting. Tensions escalate between Takashi and Eugene. While I don't agree with Takashi morally on principle, he was not wrong to point out that the US also believes in imperialism. Takashi gets real close to Eugene to try to intimidate him, but Takashi can't really do anything without starting a war. Meanwhile, all the hotel guests have gathered on the stairs for the bellboy to try to identify who he saw on the balcony. Hina tries to create a diversion by saying that Hee-sung's robe is black, so it's probably who the bellboy saw. They try to cover the soldier's line of vision so Ishin can escape, and they almost catch her, but a gunshot from upstairs takes precedence. Eugene shot at the floor next to Takashi. The soldiers bust in, but there's really nothing to be done. Takashi leaves right away after Eugene gives him a thinly veiled threat. Sungu visits Eugene in his office. He's there to find out whether Eugene will take Ishin with him. He will, knowing full well that he either fails at killing Takashi and he ends up dead, or he succeeds and they both have to part ways. In no instance do they end up together. Hee-sung returns to the everything store where he finds Tweedledum forging travel documents for Ishin and Eugene with the same last name. He knows that they found each other again. Dongmae returns home to find Hotaru at gunpoint. Ishin comes up behind him and points her rifle at him. The Righteous Army wants to get information on where Dongmun is being held. Too bad, Dongmae's people were not the people behind it. He's lost favor with the head of the Mushin for not immediately tracking down and killing the man who shot him on his own turf. The man holding the gun at Hotaru is that same man. Eunsan asks for his help anyway. Dongmae declines and turns to Ishin. She owes him. It's been months without her visits. Ishin and Eugene meet at the baker's after curfew. They're there so that Eugene can answer whether he'll take her to Japan. By way of response, he writes the letters L, V, and E on the table in flour. He drops a ring between the L and the V to represent the O in love. He knew she was a cruel woman when they met. Girl, what? Did you really? Like, she just sat in your chair when you met. Come on. He hands her the fake papers declaring her US American and married to Eugene. They leave in 2 days and will meet at the train station. Eugene supervises one last military training drill. He tells them he's leaving. He parts with one last warning. Japan is taking over Chosun. They will disband the military first. Be strong. Don't give them what they want. As he leaves, the freedom fighter boy takes on the leader role. He prompts the boys to salute as they cry. Tomi is taking it the hardest by far. Poor boy is sobbing because he knows he won't see Eugene again. When he runs away, Kwon-soo takes the chance to ask Eugene why the US isn't helping them when they signed an agreement saying that they would. Eugene comes in with the cold, hard facts. The US has invested into the Japanese military. This will be highly profitable for them. They will never help Chosun. Ishin visits Dongme at his dojo. He tells her to come back after 3 months in person. He has to see her once a month to make sure she's still alive. Eugene meets with Dongme on a mountain somewhere. He's saying goodbye. Dongme knows he's leaving just as Takashi has left, so he has some words of wisdom for him. There's a firework festival that will happen in Tokyo soon. It's loud enough to muffle a gunshot. Just putting that out there. Eugene is surprised that Dongme would help, but Dongme just wants to keep his promise to her family and is rooting for him now. Liar, but I'll allow it. His next stop on his goodbye tour is Hina. She tells him to come back whenever. Her eyeliner is always so damn good. It's beautiful. Ishin and Eugene get on the train together. She's been thinking how wearing a ring could show that she's married. Like, how could that show that? And she's concluded that there must be a similar ring for him to wear. He pulls the same style of ring but bigger out of his pocket and she puts it on his finger. She finally confesses her love for him. She's always loved him. That was really cute. Also, amazing idea to wear the same exact ring as your spouse. I love that. Hotaru turns over one of her tarot cards. It's a sad fate. Absolutely the worst news to me personally. Dongme thinks back on all the devastating things that have happened to him, and they've all featured the color red. Yes, baby girl, we know. Hee-sung eats a meal with his dad. His dad tells him to get married. Hee-sung declares that he will not. This incenses his dad. He wants an heir. He threatens to hit his son, but they just end up play fighting. It was unbelievably cute. Hee-sung shows up at the everything store again. They wonder whether Eugene is safe in Japan yet. And it's rent day for the everything store. Hee-sung tries to pay with a pocket watch. Maybe the long-running issue with money for the Kims, Hee-sung's family, is that Joseon is so poor that even the richest have issues with money. Like, I don't understand. I'm just grasping at straws here, trying to understand why he's always so cash poor for a canonically wealthy man. The couple makes it to the Japanese harbor where they have a couple of tense moments. The people at the checkout were very close to kicking Ishin out, but Eugene came in clutch and told them to ask the US legation if they really don't believe that he's an American, a US American. They don't make it very far into the country when Ishin parts ways with Eugene. The man desperately tries to get her to go with him to the US. Leave everyone and everything you know behind and stay safe with me in a different country. And she has thought about it. Of course she has. But in every single scenario she's imagined, she's had to go back to Chosun. I get it. I definitely had those thoughts, but I also definitely don't have her resolve. I'm too curious about the world and selfish, I guess. Also, like, philosophically, I'm Puerto Rican by chance. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm proud about it. Sería brincana aunque naciera en la luna. I'd be Puerto Rican even if I was born on the moon. But I like novelty more than I like being the person who stays. And that's just who I am as a person, and I'm trying to come to terms with it. Ishin walks the streets of Tokyo looking for her contact. She finds herself surrounded by some gross-ass men, but her contact bails her out. The people she set up to meet there are one of the men who helped bring her back to Joseon when she was born, and Eunsan's apprentice. I did not realize that the apprentice was Japanese, just so you know. They have to get Jungmoon quickly so that they can get him on a ship in 2 days bound for Shanghai. Eshin's gun was waiting for her in Japan already. They had put it in with a shipment with Eunsan's vases. Eugene meets with Kyle at the US legation. Kyle, astute man, notices that Eugene is wearing a ring. He knows immediately who it's about and congratulates the man. A Japan-Korea treaty has already been signed. The head of Mushin Society tries to get Jong-moon to become a turncoat for money, women, and titles. Jong-moon does not understand a single word and tries to bite off his own tongue so that he never has to converse with the man. That's such a hard thing to do of your own volition because your instinct is not to experience pain, but he got pretty far. Hina finally visits her mother's final resting place. The nun tells her that Jong-moon had come back every year to pray for her mom after he found her. Dong-me tails Hina the entire time everywhere she goes. He's concerned for her safety. Gotta put that energy for Ishin somewhere, I guess. He offers her a piggyback ride using her Korean name. This is the last straw. Hina finally breaks down crying. He tells her to cry all day if she wants today. Tomorrow, she should give up her current life, meet a good man, and spend her days shopping for beautiful dresses. She should just live a normal life. Hina notices that the words he's saying sound like they're coming from a man who does not expect to live. I also clocked that, Hina. He tells her that being a bad man like him means that he won't live long so that good people can live longer. Wouldn't it be nice if real life was like stories like that? Anyway, she pushes herself into his arms and begs him not to die before her. I've also begged someone to do that for me, someone who is almost certainly going to die before me. Not actually my mom, that would be silly to ask for, but it makes me sad to hear people talk like that, to believe that it would suck so much to live in a world without them. I wonder if he ever thinks about that promise. Back in Tokyo, Jong-moon is humiliated for the table's entertainment, who are all members of Mushin. One of the geishas is on Joseon's side, though. She's told she'll get gold if she can bed the man, so she seduces him. She starts doing the song and dance, but surreptitiously tells him to flip the table on the count of 3, which prompts other righteous army members to burst in and kill everyone there. Ishin is hiding out, waiting to shoot the men once they start heading out. Meanwhile, Eugene is spotted by Takashi while putting himself in place to shoot him during the festivities. Takashi tries to run away and use his wife as a shield after handing off his son, but Eugene is determined and follows. Takashi thinks he's found a secluded spot, but Eugene kills the 2 men with him and toys with the man, shooting him on the shoulder and the leg before killing him. Brutal. It seems like Dong-me waits every day at Chemulpo's train station waiting for Ishin to come back. I've been on the verge of tears watching this whole episode. At the hotel, Dong-me watches, amused that Hina is still practicing fencing after he told her to put it all behind her. She asks the question I wanted to know the entire time the answer to. How the hell has Hotaru ended up living with you? Apparently, while he was hiding in a shaman's place in Japan, the shaman offered him Hotaru for 3 yen. I tried to look up more or less what inflation would make that in today's money, but the conversion rates and the relatively stagnant Japanese economy, it's just hard to find a meaningful answer to that. But it seems like not a lot of money. He gives the man the money and he lays down to sleep. Hotaru stabbed him with her hairpin, which didn't faze him at all. He realized how miserable her life must be, so he offered to kill the shaman for her, and she accepted. So that he did the next morning. Hina asked him the story to know how far Hotaru would go for him. Hotaru has sent a telegram to Japan for him. This frightens him, so he runs away. Ishin meets with her contact the next morning. They say goodbye. He's returning to Joseon. He tells her that her parents will find each other again in a better Joseon and live the life that they should have. Then Ishin visits the photo studio where her parents' photo had been taken, the photo that her grandfather, Sahong, gave her. Eugene's been waiting for her there. They're both still wearing their rings. Eugene guides her inside to take the photo. He tells the photographer that they're married. Once Dong-me reaches Hotaru, we finally understand why he was afraid. Hotaru had sent word about Ishin, the traitor, being in Tokyo. She thinks that by having her killed, it's the only way for Dong-me to live. She loves that man so much that she tells him to let her kill Ishin before Dong-me kills her. He can't hurt her, but he tells not Yujo, to get her out of his home. He can't have her around anymore. Surprising to me that she would think that that could work, given that it's so obvious that Dong-me would die for Ishin. Even Yuzo tries to stop him after Dong-me tells him to give up on him and disband if he doesn't return from Japan In a month, Dongme heads for Japan. Ishin walks Eugene to the port where he'll be leaving for New York. She promises to visit him the day Chosun regains peace. And that's a crazy thing to say about Korea. Like, they're not even currently technically experiencing times of peace. They are currently in armistice. You know what I mean? As Ishin watches the ship go, the Mushin men, Hotaru, sicked on her, chase her down. Eugene never got on the ship, so he helps her escape. He looks thrilled to be running for their lives together. They head for the U.S. legation, and he shoots the window of the building, and what looks like every soldier marches out to aim for the man who shot. He explains who he is, while the men after them fast approach. Eugene manages to convince the soldiers on staff that he's one of them, and the U.S. men shoot the Mushin men behind them until they back away. Kyle comes down and sees who it is, but Eugene and Ishin are placed in a cell to contain them because Eugene shot at the legation. Kyle pleads their case with the minister at the legation, but that man is pissed off that trouble has come knocking at their door and tries to release them, thereby releasing themselves from responsibility. But Kyle manages to convince him to keep the couple locked up for their own safety. Ishin apologizes to Eugene for making it so that his return home is taking a long time. And Eugene's like, you see what I'm willing to do for you, but you've never asked me to stay? Anyway, lay on my shoulder. She does, and that's how they spend the night, locked up. Dongme finds the man who shot him and forces him to help him get to Japan. The Mushin Society men who were after the couple go back to their leader to report the events. Their leader tells them to just wait outside the legation. The U.S. will not protect Chosun people. Oop, they don't know that one of them is a U.S. man, though. Morning comes and the couple engages in a tearful goodbye. Eugene gets to leave first. He asks her if she'll be okay on her own afterwards, and she promises she will. The U.S. soldiers take Eugene out of the legation in handcuffs. At the same time, they set out on a different carriage with a coffin carrying a U.S. soldier's body at Eugene's request. The Mushin men thinks that it's to throw them off, and they follow the coffin instead of Eugene. They force the carriage to stop right before it gets to port. They open the box and find that it is in fact a soldier, a dead soldier, and not Ishin. Kyle, pissed by this violation, promises to kill one of them. Somehow, they got Ishin out of the legation. She meets up with Eunsun's apprentice. She can't leave Japan because the harbor is full of swordsmen. She wants to send a telegram to Chosun. I thought Tokmun would slink into the shadows now that Iwanek was dead, but he meets Ito Hirobumi with Minister Hayashi when he arrives in Chosun. Hayashi wants to gift some white celadon to Ito. Good thing Tokmun now owns most of it because it used to belong to Sahong. I don't know how that man can be so garibelao. Like, the closest thing I can think of in English is audacious, but like negative. At the palace, Kojong assigns Lee Won-young to assist Ito Hirobumi, another one of the Ulsa traders. Eshin sends a telegram to Hee-sung. She tells him that she wants to meet him on that day at that time. Do I have any idea what that means? No, not at all. But he finds Hina at the billiards table, who helps him decipher that it's a call for help. She calls Kojong to tell him that Ishin is in danger. Kojong decides to send a delegation to Japan to show gratitude for Ito's arrival. But of course, the man he tasks is one of the Ulsa traders, which he, I think, is aware of. They leverage one of Hee-sung's exes to find Dongme when he reaches Japan so he can help Ishin out. Ishin takes off her ring and ties it around her neck just as Mushin shows up to her hiding place. She tries to shoot them off, but there are too many of them. She takes cover on the side of a bar, trying to avoid the swords until Dongme shows up and fights them off, getting himself very injured in the process. Dongme and Eunsun's apprentice get Ishin to Hee-sung's Japanese apartment. The apprentice says goodbye. The man is Japanese, so he can go back to his family now. He asks Ishin to tell his master that he's fine. He leaves after bidding Dongme take care of Ishin, make sure she's safe. Once he goes, Dongme tells Ishin of the plan. She's leaving Japan with a delegation from Joseon as a lady of the court. She's confused. Isn't he going with them? No, Joseon isn't particularly bothered about him, girl. But what Dongme actually says is that he'll be okay. He's lived at the bottom of the barrel before, he can take care of himself. Ishin sees the cut on his forearm and wraps it up for him. He tries to get away from her grasp. I'm sure it's arousing all sorts of hopeful feelings in him, but she insists. She definitely should have let him clean up, actually, since he was bloody all over. But I guess one single bandage is better than nothing. The Joseon delegation finds Ishin and she blends in with them, seemingly without issue. Dongmae watches until he is satisfied. He slips away. Eugene submits to the courts in the US, who find his actions reckless. He lands himself 3 years in prison with a dishonorable discharge. Dongmae walks on the beach until he finds himself surrounded by samurais who all draw their swords at him. It's like 20 against 1. To say I was sobbing is an understatement. He somehow managed to kill every single one of them, but the head of the Mushin Society couldn't tolerate him valuing someone else's life over himself, and he slashes Dongmae and throws him in the water. That was so unnecessary. Even if they never showed him getting back to Joseon, I would have been happy, because in my Delulu brain, I could have been like, oh, so you're saying there's a chance. I cried. I even had to take a break after watching that to just accept his death. Like, I knew it was coming, but damned, I did not need that. A whole bunch of things happened very quickly, one after another. I don't know how, but Eugene, while imprisoned, sends a camera to Hisong. Yuzo gathers the rest of Dongmae's crew. They're leaving Hansong. Kojong receives Eshin and thanks her for her contributions to helping get Dongmu to Shanghai by gifting her a box with a Western-style dress. JK, it's a box with a false bottom hiding another suit and a rifle. She's much obliged. Eshin meets Hina at the baker's wearing her new suit. She wants to thank Hina for what she's done to help her. Hina comes clean. Actually, my dad killed your parent, so that's why I was indebted to you. And now you have to go to the foreigner cemetery. Someone will be there waiting for you. Her surrogate parents are waiting for her there, and she quickly launches herself into Haman's arms. The hits kept on coming, because I've been crying for like 30 minutes straight by this point, and there's still 2 episodes left. Hisong's mom entertains other mothers' bids to marry her son. She doesn't find the offers suitable. A seamstress interrupts to say goodbye. She's actually the sister of the freedom fighter boy Eugene sponsored. She used to belong to a noble family, but is now working to support them. She ends up at the everything store. What she wants from them is to marry her off to Hisong. She needs his sponsorship to keep her brother in the army. Hisong, who is still working on his newspaper at the shop, is aghast that she doesn't want to marry him because she's smitten with him, but she has a practical reason. The Tweedles are immediately on board and hurry off to go get some things sorted. She sits down to embroider a flower. Hisong is like, how can you embroider at a time like this? Well, your flower sign is wilted, and this embroidered flower will never wilt. Man is astounded faced with a woman who also loves flowers as much as him, because I'm sure that's so hard to find that he's never encountered a woman who loves flowers before. Hina figures out that Dongmae is dead now that all the Mushin men have left Jingoge. She practices fencing when Japanese troops arrive, forcing her to empty out the 2nd floor so she can host them. It seems like that was the last straw for her. She now wants to help Joseon get its independence. 3 years later, summer of 1907, Hisong prints news that in Japan, they'd locked up a man and a woman from Joseon just so that Japanese people could pay to see them. Joseon is now overrun by the Japanese, who round up citizens and lock them up. The official messaging is that Joseon is still an independent nation that is just allowing Japan to handle diplomatic matters for the time being. Jesus. They tell us this while they pan over the 7 traitors of 1907, the men who signed the Japan-Korea Treaty of that year, which officially handed over all control to Japan. Kojong had sent an envoy to the Hague Conference on World Peace to try to get help, but the Japanese found out about it, so they forced him to try to make it right with Japan by either taking his own life or humiliating himself in front of the Japanese and abdicate in favor of his son. One of Eshin's English classmates runs to Hisong. She informs him that members of Iljinho surround Kyonggon Palace. Iljinho sponsors a pro-Japan newspaper. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The way the traders manage Kojong asking for international help is by pointing a gun at him. Seung-gu puts himself between the gun and Kojong. He begs the king to let him kill the minister, forcing him to step down. But Japanese soldiers rush through the palace doors, which crosses the line for Kojong. He steps down officially. The soldiers have intent to hurt Seung-gu, but Kojong declares that they've taken the throne. Leave the man alone. Eugene gets out of prison and he is looking rough. He stops by the music shop and sits on some stairs, imagining that Ishin is there with him. It's the same fantasy Ishin had earlier, except this time Eugene looks like a man who hasn't seen a shower in days. A young man stops Eugene to ask him how to get to Columbia University. Look, this does not matter, okay? It doesn't matter, but the music box store is on a pier. The vast majority of piers in Manhattan are in downtown Manhattan, and the pier specifically has downtown pier vibes. Columbia is hella uptown. These men did not walk from below 60th all the way to Morningside Heights, 116th on a whim. Columbia did exist once upon a time downtown, but it was firmly hella uptown by 1900. Again, it does not matter, but it fully took me out that they casually strolled 40 blocks. Even east to west would have taken quite some time. Anyway, the man he helps is An Chang-ho, who was a real man who lived in San Francisco, but okay. He was a prominent leader of the Korean independence movement, and in the show, he's part of the Righteous Army who's still fighting the good fight for Korea. In Chosun, the Righteous Army blows up a bunch of traders' homes and the pro-Japan newspaper building. There's wanted posters of the members, covered faces all over town. Hee-song stops to look at these posters with the seamstress. She knows that there's another woman still in his heart, and he feels pity for the seamstress who's fallen for him. The Korean military runs past those two. They're responding to the king being dethroned. The whole country is in mourning now. Hina visits Dongme's old dojo. She wants to buy it. She finds the kimono Dongme was wearing when she begged him not to die before her, which brings her to tears. But hold the up. Dongme didn't die. He's in an opium den in Manchuria, holding on to a coin that Ishin gave him. You should have seen my face when I saw that. I could not be happier. It literally brought me to tears. Eugene goes to the US legation in Japan. This man is darning his outerwear very visibly. How did he afford to get to Japan? Don't ask dumb questions. Kyle receives him with a gold darn hug. What does that mean? He thanks Kyle for helping him and Ishin so long ago. His plan is to go back to Chosun, but he's still a US American. I love this friendship. Eugene has a lot of love for the white man who helped him out during his time in the military. Hina purchases a painting and explosives from the everything store. The Tweedles are hesitant at first, but Ilshik Tweedledee agrees. News of the Righteous Army blowing up buildings gets to Hirobumi, which prompts him to disband the Joseon army. Most of the cadets comply, but a commander takes his own life to remain loyal. Once the freedom fighter boy learns of what's going on, he calls the soldiers to arms. A lot of the Chosun soldiers die in the shootout, but they manage to grab their arms and fight. Seung-gu goes to Kojong to tell him he'll be joining the fight. Kojong doesn't want to allow it. He doesn't want to see him die, but Seung-gu joins the fight anyway and clears a path for the young men to retreat. He's shot in the back and somehow still manages to blow up a bunch of soldiers with a bomb. It's a moment of full circle for him, as he was once the boy who would light up the guns to get the muskets to work when he was a child, and he died lighting the bombs. The way this episode had me in a chokehold, I basically cried the whole way through, okay? It's a massacre of the Joseon soldiers, most of whom are very young. Hina manages to shoot off a couple into a Japanese soldier, saving the life of the tailor who jumped in to defend a young Joseon soldier. Hee-song also joins. He's shooting a few pictures of the skirmish. He narrowly avoids getting shot and killed by a Japanese soldier who didn't want evidence. He finds the seamstress that day, desperately looking for her brother, who she knows went to train that morning. He gives her his camera, telling her to wait at home. He'll find her brother. He looks through the wounded and the dead and finds the man who threw water at him to get revenge for how his grandfather treated him. He's lying dead on the ground. Hee-song closes the man's eyes. and mourns him. Bitch, why am I crying? Hina gives Sumi the bracelet she bought for herself from the peddler. It's supposed to grant a wish to the wearer. Didn't work for Hina though. She's asking the girl to run away as far as she can and deliver an important message. The young freedom fighters make it to where the righteous army are camping out and tell them the news. Hearing the news is obviously very difficult for Ishin because Sungu is dead for the good of the people. The people of Chosun mourn their dead that night. Sungu had no one to cry over him. The soldiers get together at the hotel to celebrate the massacre. Both Eugene and Dongme make it back to Joseon just in time to find all the dead in the streets of Hansong right before gunshots go off at the hotel. And the first thing that these men did when they saw each other among all these dead was check if the other had been with Ishin all this time. Girl, what? Earlier that same night, Ishin interrupts the Tweedles rigging up explosives in the hotel. She offers Hina her help. The two women want the same things for Joseon, and she's not afraid of dying for her cause. Hina makes sure every single one of her employees has left the hotel before carrying out the conclusion to her plan. The shot the men had heard was Ishin taking care of a Japanese soldier who caught the Tweedles trying to light the explosives. She takes over the task of lighting them. Once done, she shoots another man who tries to stop Hina from escaping. The men reach the hotel, Dongme and Eugene, just in time to see it go off, seemingly swallowing up Ishin and Hina in the process. They run into the yard to find the women. They first find Hina, who's under a pile of rubble. Dongme gives her a piggyback ride to the tailor who owed his life to her. Eunsan finds Sungu. He mourns his friend and comrade to the cause. Eugene finds Ishin among the rubble and carries her out. Hina's rickshaw guy had come back to check the explosion. He helps the couple escape just as Japanese soldiers arrive to check out the explosion. Their luck is tested when another couple of soldiers stop them to check their carriage. Eugene is ready to shoot the men, but the blacksmith beats them to it. Okay. He reverse engineered the US rifle that Sungu had stolen from the train. Eugene tasks the rickshaw guy to get rid of the body while the blacksmith takes her to his shop to rest. He's got to do something first. Hisong tries to enter the active fire zone to search for Hina, earning himself a trip to the station for being friendly with the hotel owners. Hisong listens in on the conversation between the police chief and a Japanese soldier on the situation. The men are fighting because the police chief hasn't found Hina yet. Hisong remembers the night before when Hina told him to leave with his valuables and not return tomorrow. She's bringing in barrels and barrels of alcohol. In hindsight, he realizes that she was saying her goodbyes, which, along with them only finding one of her shoes, convinces him she's dead. Hina wakes up in Dongme's arms. He tries to assure her that the tailor is coming back with an acupuncturist, but she knows she doesn't have much time left. She asks him to take her to her mother and give her opium. She hurts so much. And I think there's some censorship going on because he only holds her close. Like, I think you're not allowed on-screen depictions of drug use in Korea. I don't know, the fear of burden of knowledge about things like these is a little silly to me. Like, when has a lack of depiction ever really stopped people from doing a thing? I mean, I guess the youngest generation is the most sexless ever. So maybe they're right. I don't know. But I think I would have loved to see her released from pain. Eugene holds a nurse at gunpoint to get her to cooperate with his request for medication. She's the same nurse who helped him and Sungu kidnap Takashi, so I don't think he needed to be this extreme, but okay. Their interaction is cut short when Japanese soldiers call for her. They want her to push out all the Chosun soldiers to fit more Japanese soldiers. When she explains that the second floor is for the Japanese and this one is for Chosun, they kill all the patients on her floor who are occupying a bed. So of course Eugene shoots the men and takes the still living Chosun soldier with him. Eugene tends to Ishin's wounds. She wakes up very briefly. She asks about Hina. She's glad Dongme has come back alive. And Eugene's hurt that she would be relieved that Dongme is alive and back, but not say anything about him being in front of her. She says plainly, I've dreamed too much of this to think that it is real. I know you're not in Chosun, and don't come back, even in my dreams. Why am I crying? Chosun is like hell. She passes out again. The blacksmith interrupts Eugene's tearful caress of her face. The righteous army is here, and they have to take Ishin away. Eugene can't come with them. They can't allow an outsider in. Eugene agrees, but only if they take the wounded soldier with them. He's one of them and trained under Eugene. Hee-sung confronts the Tweedles. He still thinks Hina is dead and chastises them for helping her. They have to run because the Japanese police will go after them. He'll hold down the fort at the everything store. Hee-sung takes the seamstress and her younger brother to his family's house. He tells them that he's going to marry her. His dad freaks out, but his mom knows that he's trying to be a good man and welcomes them immediately. I guess she learned her lesson. He doesn't stay long, but bids his family to take care of them. Tongme gives Hina a piggyback ride to the Catholic village where her mom is buried. He's taking her by walking on the beach. He asks her if there's anything she wants him to tell Eugene on her behalf, and she's like, just give him a handshake and tell him welcome back. He's not actually the one she was waiting for. She confesses to him that she'd been hoping he'd return to Choson alive, and she wanted to see him everywhere. Everywhere she was, she wanted to see Tongme. She knows he only loves Ishin, and he never caught on to Hina's feelings. I was also glad, okay, I didn't know. She tells him to go visit her when it snows in the area. It won't snow for a while, so she tells him she expects him to live for a long time. She won't be waiting for him. When I tell you I was ugly crying, I was ugly crying, snot and everything, okay? She passes away on his back. He's crying, I'm crying. He asks if she's sleeping because he's in denial and tells her to keep sleeping until they get to the Catholic village. I had to take another 5-minute break because I love Hina. Such a good character. One of the traders reports to Ito about the blown-up hotel with the Japanese soldiers inside. Ito wants him to take care of it. I don't remember exactly what it was that he wanted, but when the interpreter goes to translate, Ito slams his desk. When will the Joseon trader learn Japanese? The US tried to do the same to my country, forcing us to replace Spanish for English. It also didn't work. Japanese soldiers go around looking for more members of the Joseon military. They kill anyone who gets in their way. A mom brings her child who's been shot to the hospital. The nurse starts to help him, but the guards at the door shoot the child callously. They only want Japanese people to get help. People start engaging in micro-rebellions. The nurse grabs a bunch of medication and just leaves. The tailor quits the shop rather than listen to another Japanese tirade. The rickshaw guy pushes a trader into the river. They appear at the burial site for Sungu, where members of the Righteous Army are gathered to say their goodbyes. Even Ilshik and Chunshik arrive together. Sumi delivers Hina's letter to Gojong. The first thing it says is to ask the king to take care of Sumi, the girl who delivered the paper. I swear to God, I'm going to end up dehydrated with the amount of crying I've been doing over this show. It tells the king that she was responsible and to not allow anyone innocent to be accused of the hotel explosion. She's also written a confession in Japanese that Kojong hands to Ito Hirobumi. Tongme goes to his dojo where he finds the painting that Hina had purchased. She was definitely planning to go down with the hotel because she thought that Tongme was dead. One of the last things she did was do one of the things that Tongme had told her to do, hang up a pretty picture. Tongme is still doing opium. I don't blame him. He meets with Eugene. He relays the message that Hina gave him. He still owes her something. I'm sure we're supposed to know what and what for, but I cannot remember. Eugene clocks that the man is on opium. He tells Tongme that he'll be staying at Tongme's old business and he'll be waiting for Tongme to return once he's done with whatever business he has to deal with. Tongme has to take back his old dojo because it's soon to be the 15th of the month and he needs that to be done before meeting Ishin. He pulls up to be greeted by members of Mushin. Somehow, this man who is canonically doing opium on the reg, like he's addicted, manages to take all the men out. He knows he has at most 10 days to live since news will reach Japan that he's still alive. Why would they give him back only to take him away? Why? Eugene pulls up to Tongme's old place. Tokmun is running it. Eugene calmly tells the man that Tongme is returned. He doesn't believe and treats Eugene like shit. But quickly, another man confirms the news. Tokmun is quaking in his boots. He tells the man to call the police. He's about to die. Kojong burns Hina's letter. Kwon-soo comes bearing the New York Times which, as per usual, does not give import to a massive story like Japan's invasion of Joseon. This is a disappointing reality to Kwojong. The king asks whether Eugene's alive. Kwon-soo doesn't know, but he promises to write to Kyle more. He leaves, starts to write the letter when Eugene interrupts him. Kwon-soo hugs the man in tears, glad that he's returned. Eugene meets with Eun-san at Seunggu's cairn. They drink US beer and catch up. Ishin doesn't seem to realize that Eugene is back. Eugene still does not care who has sovereignty of Joseon. He just wants Ishin and those who've helped him to stay alive. They've lost so many already. The Japanese interpreter, for reasons quite unclear to me, decides to go to Tokmun with a list of righteous army members he'd copied when Takashi was still alive. He's recognized the faces of the people in the wanted posters except for Ishin. No matter, Tokmun knows his sister-in-law. They're going to sell this information, including the location of Seunggu's hut. The Japanese do recon and find them easily. Kwon-soo meets up with the Japanese interpreter. He's incensed to learn that he sold the list. Moreover, they're both dismayed that he also sold out Ishin. He didn't realize she was one of them. Kwon-soo tells Eugene, who goes to the apothecary where he finds Ishin prepping her gun. She runs into his arms, finally realizing that Eugene is back. He tells her to take care of Chosun and he'll protect her. The righteous army realizes that they've been found thanks to a kid who spotted the Japanese soldiers in the woods. They evacuate before the Japanese get there. However, the Japanese do find an old man who is hiding in the woods. He tells them that the army is planning something in town, so back the Japanese soldiers go. The Japanese commander shoots the old man. Seems like he expected that to happen, though, because the old man dies with a smile on his face. Haengnang and Haman lead a procession of men carrying Ishin's palanquin without her in it. They seem to be ready to die because Haengnang says that they don't have much time left, but he's never held Haman's hand. And she's like, now why would you want to do that? The men in the procession try to get them to hold hands, but Haengnang doesn't do it. While the Japanese search in town, the righteous army walks the woods. Eun-san stays at the rear. The palanquin procession starts to talk about the things that they'd regret not saying if they died with the words on their lips. Haman finally yields and starts reaching for Haengnang's hand. Before they touch, the Japanese soldiers shoot Haengnang and then Haman. They kill everyone in their group. Haengnang dies reaching for Haman. Haman tries to reach for Haengnang. She tells him that he won't have to wait long. Ishin witnesses all this, and the Japanese killed them for naught because Ishin wasn't hidden with them. The traders gather for a photo that Hee-sung is taking. He knows the importance of keeping a record of what happened. Eugene shoots his way into gaining control of Tongme's business, which included shooting Tokmun. Tongme finds Eugene, who presents the situation as a gift. The Japanese know that they've fucked up because the commander tells the battalion who shot the group to stage them as rebels, because otherwise it just looks like they shot a bunch of old people unprovoked, which is exactly what they did. Haman is still alive, which prompts a whole bunch of people to try to help her. Ishin cuts through the crowd and kneels beside her, rifle on her side. She chastises Haman for not staying at camp. Haman responds that she just wanted to make sure everyone got to escape. Now that she's seen Ishin, she passes away in her arms. Girl. The Japanese return, so the crowd links up in arms in defiance. They will not let the men through. They're trying to protect Ishin. Tongme and Eugene watch this go down. It seems like Eugene might switch loyalty. He's blown away at this display of unity. And I'm not gonna lie, seeing the white English teacher, the missionary, did low-key take me out. The Japanese soldiers leave. The commoners holding arms collapse in relief. The men, Tongme and Eugene, take a horse from a couple of Japanese soldiers elsewhere. Eugene offers to take Ishin out of the city. She declines. She does not want to see anyone else die. Eugene's like, you should have known that this could happen. Like, you should have been prepared emotionally. And he's not wrong. She heads off by herself on horseback to the righteous army, and they're in their rendezvous point. She meets the righteous army at the river, where there's already someone experiencing discontent. He's unhappy with their barley rations. I hope he's not a problem. Eugene burns Haengnang's and Haman's shoes as an act of respect. He also burns the carving he made as a child so that they can give it to his mom in the afterlife. I wish I believed in afterlife so this could be more impactful, but it's still quite impactful. Hee-sung reports on their deaths knowing full well the Japanese will put him in their sights soon. Good thing he never officially named the paper or publicized who was doing this. The English student who got Ishin into school is his first employee. She helps distribute the materials. Eugene visits Hee-sung. He's there to pick up the briefcase with the Korean flag in it. He left it with Hee-sung. In terms of payment, Eugene hands him the list of Righteous Army members. He knows Hee-sung will manage to get the list in the history books. They go to a bar where finally Hee-sung will pay. There they find Dongmae. Hee-sung is absolutely more excited to see Dongmae than he was Eugene. Finally, when Hee-sung excitedly tries to get the men to cheers him, they indulge him. That also made me cry because he's tried to be friendly with them and they will not allow it. The three men watch as Hee-sung's paper drops from the rooftops, an unlikely friendship among the three of them. News of the newspaper makes it to Ito, who is mad that the Koreans have hope again. One of the men who reports the news suggests putting up a bounty on the rebels, enough money to make people go against their morals. It's a very practical plan. Dongmae gives the rest of his money to the baker. He won't need it anymore. He starts walking away, but drops unconscious in the middle of the street after he coughs up blood. I will say, I don't know what is causing the blood. Is he not healed from his last fight? Like, opium does not cause that, I don't think. Eugene rescues him and takes him home. He wakes up. He can't die today. It's the 15th of the month. Ishin better show up, okay? He thanks Eugene for his help. Even though he himself is on the brink of death, he's concerned for Eugene. Eugene responds that he's also fond of Dongmae. Eugene arrives at his accommodations where he's stopped by a reporter for the Daily Mail. Friggin' Yellow Peril Daily Mail. Kyle sent the man to Eugene. He wants to reach the Righteous Army. Eugene agrees to take him to them. They're against it at first, but Ishin, finally believing in the power of words, convinces them. The man carries out an interview and promises to print what's happening in Chosun. They try to get the reporters to buy weapons for them, but he can't be partial as a reporter. He takes a picture of them. Ishin and Eugene share a moment, but Ishin must return to her comrades. Dongmae waits for Ishin at a cafe. It's closing time. He thinks the waiter will ask him to leave, but Ishin shows up with a single coin. He tells her she's paid her debt in full. She asks him if he's leaving, and he won't tell her anything. She wants to help him stay alive, but he knows that if he goes with her, all he's doing is putting her in more danger. Before he can leave, Ishin tells him the truth about the words he said to her all those years ago. Him calling her a spoiled fool haunted her. He says nothing and leaves. I'm so glad he got to see her one last time. The young freedom fighter trains the new people in the army. He uses the exact same techniques Eugene taught him. The men there entice the guy who's been complaining about rations with a letter from a different province. The man grabs the letter in the middle of the night. It was all a ruse to find the spy in camp. Ilshik and Chunshik killed the man, but the Japanese soldiers come quickly after. They decide to distract the Japanese soldiers to lead them away from the rest of the army and give them a chance to escape. Bro, not the friggin' slave hunters becoming sympathetic characters. Shut up. Eugene meets up with Eunsun. He wants Eugene to buy 12 tickets for army members headed to Pyongyang. The people going are the women and children, including Ishin. Dongmae waits for the Mushin men at the harbor. They're a day late. He thinks maybe the heavens or Hina helped him survive for Ishin. They bring Yuzo with them. He'd been looking for Dongmae in Tokyo, and they killed him. These last 4 episodes, but more specifically the last 2, had me in a chokehold. I could not stop crying. His last act alive is to avenge Yuzo. He manages to kill a bunch of the men. Such an unfair setup. He dies from a katana through his chest. His last thoughts were of Ishin alone. He was glad that he made an impact in her life, even if it was with his cutting words. Probably not an insignificant reason why she joined the Righteous Army. The Mushin men tie his hands and drag him from a horse through the streets. Why? He's not coming back from this one. To say I gave myself a headache from all the crying would be an understatement, okay? Eunsun divides the army into 3 platoons. Eshin's platoon will go to Manchuria from Pyongyang after arriving by train. There are arms there that they need to continue the fight. The rest will follow via other methods. Eshin hands the hungry kids some rations. It's on her to keep them safe now. She places the music box to play for the kids. Greensleeves as a musical motif for the show kills me every time. Why? That night, in the rain, Eugene delivers his Joseon flag. In the morning, everyone imprints their hands on it. It means that they're patriots. The Joseon army managed to get their hands on Japanese uniforms and help Eshin get into the train without being searched. Kwon-soo helps Sumi join the righteous army, dressing her like a man. He gives her her own gat and blesses her for her journey. The Joseon police figure out that Hee-sung is the one printing the newspapers. Somehow, he finds out that the police know, so he develops all his pictures and hides all the documentation of the invasion he has in a box in the ground at the everything store. He gifts the English student his camera, and she vows to help him once the time to dig them up comes. He lets himself get arrested willingly when the police come. Somehow, the army's plan got leaked, and they round up one of the platoons. Eun-san and his platoon liberate them, but there's no way to get the news to Eshin's platoon, who is already on the train. Eugene hears that Japanese soldiers are going to check the trains. He was going to leave with Sumi, but asks her to go to the English school instead and to hold on to his bag. He writes one final message on Kwon-soo's hand. He's accompanying Sumi, and it leaves him in tears. Inside the train, Eshin learns of the situation. She knows that the two people missing from the righteous army to get on the train are Eugene and Sumi. But she knows that their best bet is to leave now before more soldiers come, so she forces the engineer to start the train. Eugene ingratiates himself with a cold businessman who is entering the train, which makes sure that guards allow him in the station without issue. He manages to hop onto it with the businessman once the train starts moving. Eugene quickly leaves the man to find Eshin. He encounters the young freedom fighter, gives him some information about the amount of new soldiers on the train now, and finishes the conversation telling him that he's proud of the boy. So tender. He finds Eshin, but he can't stay long. He wants to be a menace with his single bullet left. Eshin tries to dissuade him to keep him safe, but he's intent. Back in Hansong, Eun-san's platoon manages to take care of the original soldiers, but they end up surrounded themselves. They know they won't last long, but they fight anyway. Eugene makes his way to the compartment where the businessman sits. He points his gun at him. At the jail, a Japanese soldier tries to torture information out of Hee-sung, but he's much stronger than that. Finally, the soldier strikes him on the head, and I cannot believe that they actually followed through on head trauma being death trauma on my man. It was awful seeing such a soft person being beaten up like that, and that's just not how he should be treated. Like, he only ever found meaning fighting back in his own way. Not every member of the fight has to be a fighter, and that was beautiful. Like, the lack of fanfare that they gave his death was criminal to me, emotionally. Apparently, Eugene's plan was to make the businessman a hostage because he saves the day when a fight breaks out, holding the soldiers back while putting a gun to the man's head. A tunnel is coming up ahead. Eugene's plan is to get the soldiers into a carriage in the back of the train and shoot off the carriage, severing the train. For reasons very unclear to me, he does not jump back into Eshin's carriage once he manages to disconnect them. Instead, blocks the door so that the soldiers know exactly where to shoot. I was just angry. I just couldn't believe it, bro. Like, they couldn't have let him survive that? Please? Like, I don't even like him. News gets to Ito of Eun-san's platoon. His first response is to erase their names from history and stop the international press from getting their hands on this. At the same time, Kwon-soo recites the names of every single dead man to Ko-jong, letting the tears flow. In Eugene's bag, Sumi finds pretty much every single one of his belongings, including the norige and the picture of him and Eshin. Kwon-soo writes to Kyle Moore to ask him to request that Eugene be buried in the foreigner cemetery. Kyle reads the letters with tears in his eyes. Somehow, the Tweedles make it back to the everything store. They find the pocket watch from Hee-sung's grandfather that he's been trying to get rid of this entire time. He's paying his overdue rent with it. As soon as they return, two different people stop by to sell them some looted stuff. One of them being the set of drawers where Ishin and Eugene would leave letters, and the other, Dongmi's katana. Eugene left the matryoshka with his last letter for Ishin in it. This was right before they left for Japan. It details his hopes for her. We get a flashback to a memory of them eating fish that he caught with her, and he teaches her the word fish in English. It really is the moments like that that really sustain you. 2 years later, Ishin trains the righteous army in Manchuria. 1919, Tomi, all grown, visits Eugene's grave. He's dressed in military clothes. He remembers when Eugene told him that this was his fight, he was only helping. The show ends with a caption saying goodbye to Mr. Sunshine from their independent country. Once I finished the show, the literal first thing I said to my friends who recommended the show to me were the words, "I cannot even begin to cover the emotional toll this show has taken on me." Absolutely one of the best shows I've ever watched, like, period, no conditionals, never going to watch it again, but it was beautiful, it was touching, it was funny, it was sad, it was infuriating, it was exquisite. I now have another show that I can recommend without hesitation. Not sure if I should make a retro on the show to cover things I didn't quite understand as I was watching it and comparing it to the actual historical events as far as I can find. Obviously, I'm not a historian. Please let me know how you feel about that. I am working on something really exciting at the moment, so I might not be back for a while. But if I do, and I manage to pull off the most harebrained idea I've ever come up with, the content here will change significantly. I hope you choose to continue to follow along. As always, rate and follow the podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Bluesky at Koreandramarants or at KDrama Rants. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!